Millions of years ago, an almighty God created the world in 7 days. Then, on the very same day that Rose decided that there was no space for Jack on a big wooden panel, that God came to Earth as a human to lead a country. No, but seriously, that's what you'll hear if you ask a North Korean about Kim Il-sung. He was the president of North Korea and still is, even though he's been dead for 23 years. Kim's family moved from a town near Pyongyang to China to avoid Japanese brutality when Kim was 8 years old. His parents were openly against the Japanese who colonized the peninsula. In China, Kim became interested in communism and became a guerrilla warrior. He had his own unit and led a lot of pesky little missions in Korea which didn't do much except annoy his enemies. An explosion on a railroad in which no one even earned a scratch was a good enough reason for the Japanese to overreact and invade China. Kim was on the wanted list and fled to the Soviet Union. There he became a major in the Red Army and was fighting for their side in World War II. On a recommendation by an army officer, Stalin put Kim to be the leader of North Korea and the Korean Communist Party. After grabbing power, Kim did what every good dictator would do. 3 political parties became 2, then 2 became 1. He also played the game of, you disagree with me, you lose. And by lose we mean go to prison and get executed. Over 1 million people would end up killed on Kim and his successors' orders. Wouldn't it be super neat if I could rule a country twice as large? Kim Il-sung asked himself on a lovely spring day. The answer was obviously yes, and that's how the Korean War started. So before the war the map looked like this. Then Kim invaded, then the US intervened, then China invaded, and finally after 3 years of fighting it ended up like this. As you can see, these drastic changes certainly mean that 2.5 million people did not die in vain. But you know, in Kim's defense, if you're a dictator, it really would be super neat to rule a country twice as large. Even though he didn't actually win, Kim proclaimed the war to be a victory. He started developing a strong cult of personality and became somewhat of a divine figure. I mean, a lot of second-generation North Koreans didn't even think Kim went to the toilet. Of course, this kind of stuff was awed by many other dictators around the world. Ceausescu in particular was one of his biggest fans. Kim went from premier and general secretary to president, but his favorite title was supreme leader. He made his son Kim Jong-il heir to the throne, although there was no throne and the country was, and still is, officially a democratic one. Kim developed the official state ideology called Juche, which translates into self-reliance. His idea was to make North Korea have enough of everything without having to deal with other nations. Their only allies were China and the Soviet Union. At first, the country was doing great and was better off than South Korea. However, in the 80s, the progress stopped. China's change in economic policy and the Soviet collapse left North Korea officially stranded as the most isolated country in the world. During the end of his reign, Kim agreed with the UN to have diplomatic relations with South Korea and to stop nuclear bomb research. But he really never agreed to carry out what he agreed on, so the whole thing was pretty pointless. Kim's health started changing for the worse and his neck developed something called calcinosis, which is an ugly blob under the skin that made journalists photograph Kim only from his left. After his death in 1994, Kim Il-sung was proclaimed the eternal president of North Korea and his birthday, the Day of the Sun, is the nation's public holiday. Be sure to like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next week!